is 1776. You're listening to The Alex Jones Show.
There is a war on for your mind. Thank you so much for joining us today on this Wednesday, the 21st day of July, 2010. You know, I was thinking during the break of Ohio and Michigan and California, where they'll have 120-something sheriff's deputies and they lay them off down to 44. And they say in that one Ohio county, buy guns, we're only going to basically write tickets and raise money. Our police will now just be tax collectors. One deputy per shift, 3 a day, will be out there, one at one time, to respond to crime. I think of the Oakland police chief 2 weeks ago saying we're not going to respond to burglary, robbery, people being poisoned by design, arson. We're not going to respond. So the bigger the government gets, the more taxes we pay, it all goes to interest of the bankers. And this is the road warrior type collapse I keep talking about that the globalists have designed. This is their stated goal. Finishing up the points you were making, Brian Kraft, and we're going to go back to Robert DiNozzi and get some of his take on what's happening with this society. But that point I just raised there, I mean, I see these headlines daily. I know what happens in other countries. We are collapsing into a third world situation. Most nations live very close to a road warrior type scenario. Much of Africa is like the movie The Road.
You know, I think it's very clear to most who listen to you that we are truthfully in the final phase of the meltdown. I mean, I said last time I was on your show, we're in inning 3 of a 9-inning Greater Depression. And I don't think, but even saying that, Alex, I don't know that people still can grasp what that means. And so I think it's important to paint a picture for people, sort of a visual picture for people, so they can realize that this is not only serious, but that they must act now. And so I ask people who contact me and ask for suggestions, and we've received thousands of emails, by the way. So people are waking up. I ask people to ask themselves the simplest of questions. And those questions start with, what would you do if the power grid failed? What would you do if you turned on your tap and no water came out?
Or if the government tripled the price. That's actually what the IMF and World Bank do.
There you go. What would you do if there was a collapse of law and order and you were truly out there fending for yourself? What would you do if you woke up and gas was $12 a gallon, or there was someone had siphoned the gas out of your tank? What would you do if there were mass migrations out of the city? What would you do if the dollar collapsed? How much food does the average American have in their cupboard? Enough for what, Alex? A week or 2 weeks to feed their family? That's not enough. And so we're trying to get the word out. Look, here's what we want people to do. If you have ears to hear and eyes to see, and you truly call yourself a truth seeker, a patriot, an American, someone who really wants to see the world that our founders, or the country that our founders intended, then just do this. Go to the website, thefallofamerica.net. Watch the trailer. Download the free gold report that's right there on the homepage. Tell 10 to 15 of your friends about the trailer. Watch it with them. If you can afford it, it's not expensive. Buy the film and discuss. That's all. Do that one thing. Discuss and watch the trailer and the film. Start there. I think your audience who does this, when they go and they read through the voluminous amount of information on the website, will see the truth and wake up and start preparing to survive this thing.
Well, I mean, there is a small chance that the bankers could back off, but I've talked to so many economists and I've studied so much history, and they've stated over and over again, this is mathematically impossible to get out of unless we arrest the Federal Reserve heads, unless, and that's what the film The Secret of Oz covers is monetary solutions to extricate ourselves out of this. I mean, if we had good people running things, we could fix this and get out of it. I mean, if we'd elected Ron Paul and they hadn't assassinated him, if he got elected and he was able to do things, we would be able to reverse things. But he has said it would still be really tough. But the fact is the globalists have got the accelerator all the way down to the metal, and this is the direction they want to go, order out of chaos. And so we're trying to wake people up so that as we go into this crisis, the controllers can't spin things even into more power for them. In fact, look at this today. Obama signs the financial overhaul legislation. Obama signs sweeping financial overhaul into law, and it's in record that this gives the Federal Reserve not just power over monetary, but everything and the entire economy, and gives them unlimited autonomy, as the Washington Post said, to do whatever they want and gobble up other banks and insurance companies. That's why the Texas Banking Association has come out and exposed them and criticized it and said it's a fraud. But they create the banking crisis, the Madoff-type scam, then their solution is more power. This is just the evidence. They're not backing off. They've committed so many crimes, they're now committed all or nothing. They're all in. And I wanted to get Robert DiNozzi's comments on what Mr. Kraft and I have been talking about.
I couldn't agree more, Alex. I mean, look, here's the thing. The Federal Reserve, having given private banks the right to lend us our own currency at interest and inflation, has been historically the greatest wealth transfer scam ever concocted by anybody. It takes our value, our wealth that we produce as middle-class Americans and transfers it into the hands of the elite. That's what it's for. Now, I'm a little less optimistic than say, even Ron Paul, that the dollar could be saved. One, because they have no incentive to save it. The whole point for them is to print more and more and more, because every time they lend us more, we owe them more interest. So that's not going to happen unless we reverted back to the gold standard, which brings me back to Brian's comments on being prepared. You know, the reality is maybe a lot of us aren't in a position where we can, go off into the woods somewhere in the country and build a second home or be off the grid or whatever. But the single most fundamental thing that you can do is own gold in a variety of ways. And, never mind the water not turning on tomorrow morning. I mean, we all woke up to 9/11. Can you imagine waking up to a financial 9/11? You turn on your TV, the markets collapse. You're told that, your dollars are no longer currency. They're going to have to be exchanged for something else. That is very, very real. And that was the thing that I was very concerned with when we started this film. I had a dream. It's kind of funny, way back just when we were first getting going. And in this dream, I woke up and I was like, oh, I didn't do anything. It was too late. And there were sort of military vehicles rolling down the street, and we were being told on loudspeakers that we had to report to our local Liberty Center to get our freedom number.
No, I've been having those dreams for 20 years before I was even awake.
Well, the thing is, it's what we're trying to do with this. I really sort of caught on to the power of disseminating information in grassroots ways when I was on the set of Flightplan, of all things. I had made a film previously years ago, and I brought a couple of copies down to the set, and I gave them to a few of my friends on the crew. And, our star, Jodie Foster, she happened to be sitting there, and I never in a million years thought she'd ask me for one, but she did, and that was on a Friday. Monday morning, her assistant called me down to her trailer, and I went in, and she said, this was amazing. I need 10 more in a box, please. I need to give them to all my friends. And I said, this is something I want to do more of.
Well, I mean, they have the Emergency Centers Act, which is to build FEMA camps. They've already built them. It's like they have the Cybersecurity Act after they've already built it. They have the Real ID Act 15 years after they've already put it into place, federalizing our IDs with biometrics. They have built the FEMA centers. They are your sports stadiums. They are the old military bases. Yep. And they're already, I always said they are going to. Now they are advertising them as your local emergency community center. The old mall here off I-35 got taken over by FEMA 2 years ago. And they come over and tell you to get out of there if you try to videotape them. I mean, this is a designed implosion of society. And I just hope folks will go get the film, The Fall of America, at thefallofamerica.net, because I really do want people to get prepared, and that's why I agreed to be in your film. Let's list one more time for folks, everybody that's in this. It's a very eclectic group, but they're all basically saying the same thing.
Absolutely. Very eclectic mix of notable experts, Alex, that normally agree on very little, if anything at all. but do agree that America is in sort of a stage 2 or inning 3 of a collapse. So we have Dr. Paul Craig Roberts, who's the father of Reaganomics. We have Naomi Wolf, the New York Times best-selling author. Of course, she normally probably doesn't agree with much that Mr. Roberts says. Alex Jones, Professor Mark Crispin Miller, head of media studies at NYU. We have Mickey Z, a left-winger, who probably doesn't agree with anything that the notable G. Edward Griffin, a libertarian, believes. We have constitutionalist and journalist Joseph Farah, the eminent economist Douglas Casey, who's an anarchist, is in the film. Biblical scholar Ken Klein, who talks about how this relates to Christianity and Judaism. Author David Icke, historian Doug McIntyre, and economist David McIlvaney. There's also some literature